Hi, everybody. It's episode 529 of PodQuest.
Hey.
It is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. I am Chris, and with me today is Walnut.
Yeah, it's just me.
Yeah, Drew had a previous engagement this evening, so he's off doing that.
Yeah.
I assume he'll be back next week unless he's not.
The likelihood of his engagement today also happening next week is very small. So, yeah, he should be.
Well,
He should be here next week.
This weekend. Is it this weekend? Hang on. Can't remember. I always forget the date. Is it this weekend? Where are your dates, you asshole website? Yeah, it's this weekend. So this weekend he's going out to Alabama too.
Is he really? I thought he was going away the following week or 2 weeks later.
So he's going away for work 2 weeks later. He has that annual work thing. This Sunday he'll be in Alabama for Furnace Fest to see Boys Night Out play their first show in almost 20 years. I think it's been 16 or 17.
Interesting.
Yeah, they play at 5:10 on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And Under Oath headlines.
Nice.
Oh, it looks like they're actually on the main stage. I didn't realize that. Fucking good. Boys Night Out, that is.
Yeah.
Good for them. Coming back after damn near 15 years and getting the main stage. This is a week like any other week. We've done things though, so I guess that's a little different.
Yeah,
we did quite a few things this week.
We've done things.
Do you want to just get right into it?
Yeah.
Well, then, what's on the agenda?
On the agenda is you got me as I was having to log back in because it logs me out once a week.
It actually just logged me out for the first time in a long time.
On the agenda, Cobb, you watched a fuck ton of movies. Like a literal fuck ton of movies somehow.
I watched 6 movies.
That's a lot of movies. But you watch more on New Year's, so I mean it's not that many. I played a fuck ton of games. I played 3 new games. For those of you wondering, Alien Isolation, Lockdown Protocol, and Murky Divers. We'll talk about those. Cobb, you started playing Echoes of Wisdom, the Legend of Link game. And then yeah, that's about it. If we have more time, we'll talk about more other stuff. But who knows?
Yeah, we'll see how the evening takes us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so so Erica and I decided we're going to try and do like the 31 days of Halloween sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And watch. We're not going to be able to watch one every day just because like we have other things that are going to happen. But we're going to try and at least watch 31 like horror / scary / Halloween adjacent movies throughout the month. We got a little bit of a head start. This past weekend, which we're not technically counting towards our 31. But we watched Cube from 1997.
Yeah.
Spirit Halloween the movie,
Which used to be a Kmart.
Yeah. Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin, the 2019 remake of Pet Sematary, and then the 2023 prequel to the remake of Pet Sematary, Pet Sematary Bloodlines.
Yeah.
And then we wrapped it up by yesterday, our first like official day of October. We watched the classic 1998 movie Urban Legend.
Is Cube scary?
It's more like a psychological thriller than anything, with a little bit of like gore to it. But that's why I said it's not necessarily just like horror movies. It's it's things that fall in that whole realm.
Okay.
And unfortunately, a lot of movies that aren't necessarily scary do get lumped in the horror genre.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Cube before?
I have. It was big in the friend group forever ago.
Yeah. It's been, I don't know, close to 20 years since I've seen it.
Yeah.
That's a real weird movie, but it's like it is a good movie for being like kind of simple.
As low budget as it was, they only needed 1 set, maybe technically 2, if anything.
Yeah, because really it was just they just kept crawling between different cubes. They didn't necessarily have to change the cube if they just had like 2 side by side or like not side by side directly, but you know what I mean, like 2 that they could just pretend they were crawling back and forth between.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's weird.
I don't know that I would call it fun.
It's been 20 years, so I feel like it was fun.
I mean, in the first 30 seconds, a man gets cut into cubes, and then within 10 minutes, another man gets his face melted off by acid.
Yeah, that's fun.
All right, whatever does it for you, buddy.
But you know what I mean when I say it's fun, though. Like it's not bad, and it's not like horrible. It's just like it is campy and ridiculous, but it's fun. Like it's a movie that's entertaining. And like I remember that movie I don't remember it fondly, but I do remember it and remember enjoying it enough. And the fact that it was like had like 2 sequels and a prequel or something like that
Yeah,
isn't just
there's
it blows
Cube
my mind.
2 Hypercube, and
Mhm.
then Cube 0 was the prequel. And
Yeah,
then I did find out when when I was looking this one up to watch, there was like a remake reboot of it from semi recently.
really.
Yeah, let me double check.
I think I might vaguely remember that.
2021.
Wow, that's
It looks
crazy.
like it's a Japanese remake.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, Cube is great. I want to know. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I don't care about Paranormal Activity. I feel like after the first one, those movies just really, really, it just they lost me. Maybe after the second one, like they just lost me, and I was like, this is just too much.
So I really like the third one. The third one was like the prequel one where it was them as a little girl, and you kind of see why all that weird shit was happening around them.
Yeah, I think that might have been where it lost me, but probably because I saw it in theaters on opening weekend.
Yeah.
And it was like, so it was I was just set up for failure when it came to seeing that movie because it was opening weekend. So there was a bunch of little fucking shit kids there. Like it was like most of the theater were shit teens. And like I was mid-20s, so I wasn't that old, but like still there were little shit teens going to see this movie. And I had like just gotten back from vacation, and if this is a reason I don't go swimming. Anytime I go swimming, I get swimmer's ear.
Oh, that sucks.
And I had swimmer's ear. Like I had it just I couldn't hear out of my my right ear for half the movie. For like during seeing the movie, like I can hear, but the right ear is muffled, so everything's quieter. And all the little shit fucking kids at night would be dead quiet, and we'd watch what's going on at night. And then the second daytime happens, everyone's talking. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? And at that point, I was like, I don't care about these movies now. I ain't gonna ever watch them.
Yeah, so they've definitely varied in quality. Like I think all of them have had some good and some bad. The first one was definitely the best one, but it was the most unexpected one.
Yeah.
And I think out of the original 3, the first one and the third one were probably the strongest. The second one, just I don't know. Like
the second one was the one where they used the Xbox.
No, that's like 4.
Is it? No.
The Kinect didn't exist when Paranormal Activity 2 came out.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. So Paranormal Activity 2 is the one that follows the girl. It's technically a prequel up until the end. It happens prior to the first movie and like at the same time as the first movie. Because the characters from the first movie actually are in it a few times because it's the girl's sister and her sister's family. And that movie ends with the girl from the first movie who is like possessed by the demon showing up and taking the baby from her sister's house after like her sister's family was murdered.
Okay, so maybe it was Paranormal Activity 4 that I saw in theaters, and it was all the little shit kids. Because Paranormal Activity 4 was years after 1 and 2, and the baby it was still the girl's sister who kidnapped the baby, and the kid in that movie was supposed to be the baby from Paranormal Activity 1 and 2.
So they're like the kid next door is technically the baby from the first one, and he's a little bit older.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at it now. So the first movie was 2006. The second one I think was like a year or two later. 2010. Wow. So it was like 3 or 4 years later. And then Activity 4 was in 2012. So Paranormal Activity 3 happened, I guess, in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 was the one that, like, it mostly followed like a different family with all the weird stuff happening. That's the one where it's mostly the teenage girl, and they use like the Kinect with the Xbox because it does all the infrared dots to try and like track things. And yeah, that one is probably the one I liked the least. But there was another one, the marked one. So I can never remember which one is which. But there was the marked ones and the Ghost Dimension. Both of them follow totally different like sets of people from those original movies. But one of them actually, the way that it kind of ends and wraps back around to things, has like a weird connection to the first movie, which I thought was actually kind of cool. This one though, Next of Kin, is completely different. The only similarity really in it is it's like the found footage, like all the camera stuff is from inside of the movie. But this one, it actually it filmed during COVID, so like they had that whole thing going on early on where like they're meeting up at like the airport and everyone's wearing masks. One of the guys in the movie is just like the biggest like dude bro guy. And when they get into like his van because he's driving them someplace, they ask if it's all right to take the masks off. And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, it's good. I've had COVID like 5 times." And the girl who's the main character kind of like looks at the camera and looks at him and goes, "Really?" And then like leans further away from him.
Yeah.
But this one follows a girl who was adopted, and she through like DNA sites like 23andMe or whatever, finds out that she has family, but they're Amish. And it only happened to come up because she has like I guess it's a cousin, I think is what he was supposed to be, who was on that like Rumspringa stuff and happened to do one while out on that whole thing. So his DNA got put into the database and they managed to get in contact. And the movie kind of follows her, and I honestly don't know if the guy was her boyfriend or just a friend. And it was them essentially making a documentary about her connecting with her birth family. And as you can expect, they get to this like isolated Amish farm and just all sorts of like weird and creepy shit ensue. This might be the first one of these movies that has like an actual like physical supernatural thing in it too. Like in all the other ones, it's more like non-corporeal formed things. Like there's shadows, things move on their own. The characters get possessed. But there's not like you never really see like an actual monster. This one actually has like a monster. So like they changed it up a little bit.
Nice.
I can't say it wasn't bad, at least as far as like these movies go. But it's not a movie that I would ever think about watching again either. Whereas like I'd watch the first 3 probably again because it has been actually quite a long time. This one is kind of up there with 4, where it's like. It was fine, but it has no connection to the rest of them. It's kind of, I don't need it.
Yeah.
Spirit Halloween, the movie though, boy, did that get made in the wrong fucking decade.
So it takes place in an old Kmart, right?
Yeah, basically. So for whatever reason, the Spirit Halloween that has set up in what I can only assume is an old Kmart or something, or maybe a Sears even, it's like in an abandoned lot behind like an abandoned construction site. Like it screams like cheesy horror movie, but it's a legitimate operating Spirit Halloween. Yeah. When they first get to it at the beginning of the movie, I legitimately thought that it wasn't a real Spirit Halloween, and these kids were just going to be trapped in there, and that was going to be the movie. But that's not the case. It's a legitimate Spirit Halloween that these 3 like they're teenagers. Like I think they're like middle school, getting ready to go into high school. The one kid's super into Halloween and he still wants to go trick-or-treating and everything, but his 2 friends are like, no, that's for kids. We don't want to do that. So he comes up with this idea that they're going to hide in the Spirit Halloween and then like stay there overnight. So like that's kind of the pretense of the movie is these 3 like 13, 14-year-olds are going to spend the night in a Spirit Halloween. The whole movie feels like something out of the 90s. Like if this was a like mid to late 90s Disney Channel original movie, it would be a cult classic today.
Okay.
As it stands, like it's a 2022 movie. They have smartphones. They're watching movies on tablets. It has that vibe, but I don't think it just doesn't land as well. It's not bad though. Like as far as like a movie that's definitely meant more for children. It's got Christopher Lloyd as the bad guy. He plays a ghost. He possesses different animatronics inside of the Spirit Halloween as he's trying to find a body to inhabit permanently. And it's also got Rachel Lee Cook. She's the only other like notable actor in the movie.
I don't know who that is.
She's all that.
I know the movie. Without Googling them, I don't.
I mean, like, you've definitely seen her before. She is the main girl from She's All That. In the 90s, she was the This Is Your Brain on Drugs girl that, like, smashes a whole kitchen up with a frying pan.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was also one of Sean's girlfriends in Psych.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I watched Psych, so it's just I'm not going to bother. She's an actress. I don't remember who she is. I'm not going to bother looking her up.
Yeah, but her and Christopher Lloyd are kind of the two named people in it, and like it was fine. Like, it's not a bad movie. Like, if you're looking for something low stakes and more comedy than anything else, it's worth checking out. It's on Amazon, so if you have Prime Video, it's just included with that. I thought some of the stuff they did was actually fun, like the way Christopher Lloyd like inhabits the different animatronics. Like, it was funny because like he'd inhabit one that has like a chainsaw, but then it wouldn't have the chainsaw. It had a chainsaw and a hook, so those were its two hands, and it gets into a position where it's able to break down the door because of those. But then there's like a hatch, and he doesn't have fingers to be able to open the hatch. So then he's like, God damn it, I have to go find a different body with hands. And like goes to find like a different animatronic with like opposable fingers.
Okay.
Yeah. So like they do some fun stuff with it. It's pretty low stakes. It's worth like I said, worth watching if you're just looking for something like silly.
Yeah. I have so much to watch right now that it's hard for me to figure out what to watch.
Well, you could always just watch Spirit Halloween the movie.
No. See, here's the thing. Starting Saturday, Bleach comes back. Starting tomorrow, well, I mean, I think they air it all at once. The third season of Vox Machina. My Hero is still going on, shockingly.
Yeah, we have to catch up on that, but like I was not really into this season, and neither was Erica.
My Hero's gotten way too shonen. It's really just it takes too long for fights to actually happen and for stuff to actually happen. And it's just like with timing and things like that, with everything that's going on and the different like how everything's happening all at once. It's a really it's gonna be hard to like keep focus. It's hard to like keep focus and remember what's going on. I can't wait to watch it all at once. Can't wait to binge it. Like literally, this season will probably be a season that I sit down and watch in one day, and just like watch it all at once.
Yeah, that's fair. I am going to go see the movie in a couple of weeks.
I will probably just wait for that to be VOD.
Yeah, it's one of the few things where like generally the crowd to anime movies are actually like there to watch the movie and have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, I'm gonna go see that on whatever day I bought a ticket for it.
Yeah.
But back to the movies. The two Pet Sematary movies they weren't bad. The remake of Pet Sematary was, from what I remember, because it has been a very long time since I ever saw the original movie. It felt pretty in line, but they kind of like they tweaked and changed a couple things here and there. Mm-hmm. I think that movie had a lot of the same tension that I remember from the original. But also, that's a sort of movie where going into it kind of knowing at least a little bit of what happens, it kind of killed a little bit of the tension for it too. Like, yeah. I know Pet Sematary is like one of the people is going to die and they're going to bury the person in the pet cemetery hoping they'll come back, even though their pet already came back a little bit broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really remember the original enough, so I don't remember if it ended the same way, but boy, did this one end on a fucking downer. And I actually liked that. I liked that it ended on a very like, well, that fucking sucks note. It wasn't, because normally like horror movies like that have some sort of like, not happy ending, but at least, you know, the final girl survives sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas Pet Sematary Bloodlines, on the other hand, is set in the 60s. I want to say it's like 68 or 69. The Vietnam War is going on. The main character you follow, him and his girlfriend, are about to go leave to join the Peace Corps from this like small like rural town where the last movie took place, like where the Pet Cemetery is. Mm-hmm. And very early on, like one of the people in the town, his son had been drafted, died. The guy dug up his son's body and buried it in the pet cemetery, and he came back not quite right, because that's what fucking happens. And then a bunch of other people had it happen. So this one, Bloodlines, was almost like borderline zombie movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like it just didn't quite work. Mm-hmm. So like I would not recommend watching Pet Sematary Bloodlines unless you just really want to like watch all the Pet Cemeteries. The 2019 remake, though, like, it's definitely worth checking out. If you don't have access to the original, I'd say the original is probably actually a little bit better. just because that movie, like that 80s kind of feel for that kind of movie, just feels like it would work better.
Yeah.
And then the last one was Urban Legend. Which, have you ever seen Urban Legend?
Yeah, that came out. That came out like around the same time that we had movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I think the
Yep.
first or second Scream.
Yeah, I would say it was like Scream 2.
Yeah, it was that era of horror movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did see it. It's been forever, and I don't really. I have more of a memory of I Know What You Did Last Summer than I do Urban Legend. But I'm trying to. Was Urban Legend the one with the guy with the yellow jacket that was the killer, or was that I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I don't remember if the jacket was yellow, but I think you're thinking of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, because he had the ice hook.
Yeah, that is I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah,
so Urban Legend is people get killed around urban legends.
Yeah.
So like the first one is the girl driving, and she pulls in to get gas during like a stormy night, and the guy at the gas station is super weird and creepy and tells her she needs to come inside, and when she comes inside there's nobody on the phone, and she ends up like hitting him and like escaping and driving away, only for him to come running out and like going, no, there's somebody in your back seat, and then like a person in the back seat pops out and like kills her with an axe. So it's like all those sorts of things. They do like the urban legend about like the high beams at somebody and them chasing you, and pop rocks and coke.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's got Joshua Jackson from Dawson's Creek fame. I only say that because of the time frame. Do you know who that is?
Not really. I didn't watch Dawson's Creek.
He was Charlie and the Mighty Ducks also, and he was in the show Fringe.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
So he's in this movie, and two things I found funny. He is on the fucking like poster for this movie. He is the first one of the group to be killed in like the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Oh yeah, he was. He was hired just for the name.
Well,
because of Dawson's Creek.
And that's what I said to Erica. I'm like, man, he's on the poster and is dead already. They put him in this movie strictly because of Dawson's Creek. But one of his scenes involved him getting to a car and turning the car on, their radio coming on, and it playing the Dawson's Creek theme, and him going, "Oh fuck this," and like turning off the radio real quick.
Of course they did.
So I did think that was a little funny. But then the movie also has like some fun little cameos. Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, has like a small role in it as a college professor. The gas station attendant from the first like urban legend murder is the guy who plays Chucky, or voices Chucky, I guess I should say. And I think there were one or two others. But yeah, so the Jared Leto was also in it, in one of those like weird him getting very weird into acting. Like he became a method actor later on, but in this you can tell he's just like a dude playing a college guy. It's one of those like fun 90s like slasher movies though, because I feel like you said, Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, and I feel like there was like one or two others. They're from that era where they were more satirical to horror than like what we had in like the 80s, where like the 80s were all like over the top bloody slasher movies with like sex and drugs and murder and violence and blood and all that stuff. And then you had these movies in like the mid to late 90s where they were all more like character driven, and there are deaths and they are usually at least somewhat gruesome, but they don't focus on the way that like those slasher movies did. And there's a lot of satire and almost like meta humor around what's going on. Because like in the Scream movies, you have the guy who's like, oh yeah, like this is how horror movies happen, like blah blah blah, and like going through all the tropes. This movie did a similar thing as they're talking about like different urban legends and stuff. Like they know that they're tropes that they're doing, and at the time that was like an original thing. Now we look at that and be like, oh, that's very tropey, because those things have now just been done to death as like the decades went on. Yeah. But going back and watching like the ones that did it originally are like, no, you know what? That's actually like, I like that. Like that's a good time.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, that one actually has a good twist. Like, we managed to guess it by the end, but it was definitely one of those where, like Eric and I are talking, and we're both just like, well, is it him? Like, I feel like the movie's trying to make us think it's him, so it's probably not him. But maybe it's this person. Like, this one seems like it's more likely, like, because they're around and they're prominent, but they're not that prominent. So, yeah, it had like a decent twist.
I'm trying to remember a movie that it's a horror movie that's based on like people driving around, but it was they remade it in
The Hitcher.
as I think that might be what it was. That might be it. Yeah, The Hitcher, I think.
I mean,
Um,
it was a one from the '80s about like a killer that was a hitchhiker, basically,
yeah.
and then they remade it in the mid to late 2000s.
Yeah, and I think in the original in the 80s, the man lived, and in the late 2000s the girl lived. And I remember my dad being shocked that they made that change. And I was just gonna ask you if you were gonna watch those, if which one you were gonna watch. But I mean it doesn't really matter. I barely remember the movie as it is. I just remember that little bit. And then there's a movie Joyride that I was like, oh, you should watch Joyride. It's got Paul Walker in it.
That's not a horror movie, though, is it?
It's like thriller. It sits more in line with like something like Cube. 'Cause
Okay.
kids are driving cross country or something, driving home from college. They get a CB radio, and they contact a truck driver, and the truck driver basically stalks them and tries to murder them.
Interesting.
Yeah, you never seen Joyride?
I've never even heard of Joyride.
Well, there's a new movie called Joyride coming out literally this year, and it has nothing to do with the original. It's not a remake.
I found the one that you're talking about. It's on Hulu. It looks like.
Yeah,
I'll make a note of that because we don't have like a strict like these are what we're watching. We've looked up a couple of lists and like have some movies where like Erica likes watching Hocus Pocus every year. So like at some point this month we'll watch Hocus Pocus.
yeah,
But otherwise it's just kind of like looking at different movies that are available on streaming and kind of being like, well, what are we in the mood for?
mm-hmm.
That's why like last night something about urban legends got mentioned, and I'm just like, oh, let's see if Urban Legend is on anything, and that's what we ended up watching.
Makes sense.
And actually, the Pet Sematary stuff was just I had so when we did The Godfather and I did the trial for Paramount, they offered me like a $1 month to extend it. So I'm like, sure, I'll pay $1 and keep Paramount. And it was expiring. It expired yesterday. So I'm like, hey, let's just watch a few movies on Paramount while we still have it.
Yeah, makes sense.
But that is all for the movies, Rich. How about these games you played?
All right, so guys, I played a lot of new video games over the past few days. We're gonna start with Murky Divers because I probably have the least to say about that. I played that yesterday. I played it on stream. All of these games I played on stream. If you want to see the VODs, you can check them out on YouTube. YouTube.com/@bwalnuts, I believe, is what my YouTube link is. Or you can just go to my Twitch and watch the VODs for the next 60 days, I think is how long they're up. I don't remember. But we started with Murky. I'm going to start with Murky Divers because it's a decent game. It's interesting. It's a game you have to play with other people. Both this and Lockdown Protocol, you have to play with other people. Murky Divers,
both of those games.
Murky Divers is a multiplayer co-op. And it is, I talked about a game a while back called Lethal Company, where you land on a planet, you have to go in, you have to find scrap, you have to bring it to your ship, but there's like different creatures you can encounter that are trying to kill you, that are going to stop you, and whatever, and if you don't get back to your ship on time, it takes off, and if there's no one on your ship, then your ship gets destroyed and you lose all the money. You have 3 days to get a quota, otherwise you get ejected from your ship and you have to restart over with your, like, timeline. That's Lethal Company. Well, Murky Divers is very similar. You are on a submarine. You're a couple of people on a submarine, and you're sailing around the ocean or something. I guess I don't know. And there's a pharmaceutical company that was testing on humans. That all of their testing was being done underwater, and their test sites have all flooded. And so you work for the pharmaceutical company, trying to find all the experiments and get rid of them so that they don't have to pay for like the fines or anything for human experimentation and polluting the water. So you are on this submarine that it's funny. The submarine also has water in it. Like you are swimming around in the submarine, the submersible, but your oxygen is refilling while you're in a submersible. And the second you leave the submersible, you then have to worry about your oxygen. Which is weird because you're swimming the entire time. It's funny. But you can't, there's no windows. You can't see out your submarine. There is a radar panel on one side and there is a research panel on the other, where the person on the radar panel gets little dings of like M3. or I6. And then the person on the research panel has to find out what that thing is, has to find M3 or I6 and match it with certain display items to figure out what it is. So it's like M3 could be a kraken that's coming towards you. I6 could be experiments that are just floating around in the ocean that you can grab with your net, stuff like that. And then you can occasionally get to deep dives, which are little icons on your radar, which you then pull your anchor, and then you can leave your ship and go around the facility grabbing basically human body parts. Like there was a Newton cradle of eyeballs.
Ooh.
And there was a face, but it was Doctor Who season 9 episode 2 lady face. You remember that? Where it's the stretched out face and she's like, moisturize
Oh, yeah,
me.
yeah. The end of the universe or whatever.
Yeah. It was, you have a little card that has a stretched out face and it's just basically a small one of her. Or you could find like full on bodies. At one point I had just like a ball of flesh, like a giant ball of flesh that took up 2 inventory spots basically. And you just have to go around these areas finding them and bring them back to your ship, and then disposing of them, and you get paid for each body part that you dispose of. And there's creatures that you encounter, creatures you run into while you're there, that like can be a little spooky and like can like there's like a few things I encountered. One was just like a worm that'll grab onto you and slowly do damage to you. One of the other players has to punch the worm, or you have to get back to your ship and it'll let go of you when you get back to your ship. Another creature is just like this frog thing with blades on its hands. And then the worst one was, they call it the Grudge, but it's basically the ring. You find a working TV screen, and if you look at it, and literally like just for a second, you not stare at it, just look at it for a second, it will then start chasing you. And you swim around, and there's TV screens all over you, and eventually this long face with like a long body just starts coming at you, and there's no way to get away from it. There's no way except for to leave the area that you're at to get away from it. It was horrifying. It was fantastic.
How many people were you playing with?
I was playing with 2 others, so
Okay.
it made it a little bit easier. They usually play the people I was playing with. They usually play just the 2 of them. It's a newer game. It's a smaller game. Not many people are playing it, so like they don't have a lot of people to play it. So like they usually play just the 2 of them. And like the game can be a little frustrating because if it's always the same size ship, it seems. So you have one person sailing the boat and dealing with the speed and the direction, while the other person's jumping back and forth between the radar and the research. But yeah, it was good. It's a little slow. It can be like, I'll be honest, it can be a little boring at times. You have to be in a social mood to play this.
Which is fair. I feel like that's the case with a lot of like online multiplayer stuff. Like that aren't shooters. Like you can definitely play like the online multiplayer shooters just with 0 interaction.
Yeah. But it was like they bought the game for me. So I had to play it. So I like put it into my schedule or like switched around my schedule this week to play it with them. And I'll play it again, but like it's not something I feel the need to have to play it. But it's fun. It's silly. It's something chill that you can just hang out with your friends, the bros, and talk to and chat while you're playing this game. Then I also played Lockdown Protocol on Saturday. That game, to me, I think is the Among Us killer.
Really?
I think this is going to become bigger than Among Us. The only reason it might not be a bigger than Among Us is because it's not free. And Among Us, if you play on your phone, is free. You have to pay for it on Steam, but on your phone, it's free.
So I just looked this up. It's like I don't know exactly what the process and all is in it, but it looks like a first person like 3D Among Us.
Basically, and the reason I think this is better than Among Us is there's no meetings. So in Among Us, for anyone who's never played Among Us and you've lived under a rock and you don't know Among Us, you have up to 15 players per server, I think. And you can have any number of betrayers or of bad guys. The players each have their own set of tasks to complete in Among Us, whereas the murderer has to just kill everyone to prevent them from completing their tasks. And if you kill somebody and run off, and then one of the players finds the body of the killer. They then have to they can report the body, and then there's a whole social aspect meeting of figuring out who killed, who did it, who did what, where was everyone, and stuff like that. I hate that because that always boils down to, oh, this person's always guilty. If you're playing, especially if you're playing with friends, it 9 times out of 10 will boil down to this person's always guilty. Send them out. All right, yeah, let's do it. And it's always this person's sus. Why? Because they are. Okay, let's just do it.
Well, Rich,
And
have you just considered not being sus all the time?
And like, I mean, I've tried. But no, like that's the thing. Like, I tend to be one of, like, I'm bad at, like, if people know when I'm the killer, because I like, I don't know. I try to not make it obvious that I'm the killer, but the way I act is just, it's obvious that I'm the killer. So in Lockdown Protocol, instead of it being everyone have their own tasks, it's you're all on the space station. The entire space station, even the killer, knows that there are, say, 3 tasks that need to be completed. They are not short, and they take teamwork. They take multiple tries, multiple runs. They take a while. You have 8 minutes to get all 3 of these done. So you can each spend your time doing one task at a time, but sometimes some of the tasks take longer. So you need to spread out. You need to have some people do one, some people do another, and whatnot. Well, the killer knows what tasks you have. Or they're not the killer, they're the dissident. They know what tasks you have. And they can work on sabotaging you by, all right, I'll help you with this task, and doing it wrong, or failing it, or whatever. Purposely causing issues. Or they can find a gun, or a knife, and put you off, bring you to a corner, and kill you. And just murder people. Like, they can play it any way. The dissident's goal is to make sure that either they kill everyone or the timer runs out before all tasks are done. The player's role is to just complete the tasks. If all the dissidents are killed, the timer continues to count down and the game continues until the tasks are done or the timer runs out. If the dissidents are dead and the timer runs out, the dissidents still win because they did their job. They delayed the tasks.
Interesting.
Yeah. And there's no meeting process. There's no, like, social engineering aspect of the game. It's all based on trust. How much do you trust this person? And I trust people too much every time. I was like, hey guys, we have this thing. Who's going to come do it? I'm like, oh, here, show me how to do it. I'll go, here's what you need to do. We talk about it. And I get to a corner and boom, I'm dead. I'm like, you motherfucker. You son of a bitch. And then, it's really cool because there's no stop in the game. Like, that's what I hate about the meetings as well, is like it kind of takes the immersion out. Like, it stops the game to yell at each other, to try to argue with each other, to type to each other. Here's who I think it was. Here's blah blah blah. And no, this is boring. Let me get into it. Let me finish my tasks. I'm almost done. And it's always when I have my one last task to finish that, like, somebody calls a meeting and then I have to run all the way back to where my task is. Whereas this one, everyone's working together to do the same tasks, but one person's just trying to stop you. And everyone can kill everyone. An employee can
interesting.
An employee can kill an employee can kill a dissident can kill an employee, and a dissident can kill a dissident. And, like, we only played a handful of games where there were 2 dissidents, and, like, there might be a play in there where it's like, look, if they suspect one person but they don't suspect me, I'll kill the dissident. Be like, look, they're dead. Obviously, I'm a good guy. And then I can start doing my social engineering of, like, moving the things you need and not completing things properly or ruining the objectives you're working on. And it was like, yeah, I had so much fun with it. We were just cracking up. We started around 7:30 and didn't finish till about 1 a.m. We ran like 5+ hours. And, like, everyone was having a blast. And also, everyone who said they were going to be there ended up being late. So, like, it ended up having to extend the time. But yeah, I think I like the 8-minute round aspect. They're short. You can just get 8 minutes. All you have is 8 minutes or 9 minutes. I think at one point I upped it to 9 minutes, and we had 3 tasks and 2 killers. So there would be 2 people who were working on sabotaging, while there was, like, 6 people working on completing the tasks. I think we had, like, a good equilibrium of like, employees winning and and the dissonance winning. Yeah, it's really fun. I think
Nice.
I really think it could end, not end, but like I think it might be like something that causes Among Us to kind of die. Um,
Like I don't know. Like I honestly don't know how big Among Us still is, but the other thing Among Us has going for it is it's on phones and
yeah,
tablets. Like
yeah,
people can play without needing a PC or a console.
yeah. It's free on phones and tablets, whereas Lockdown Protocol isn't. Lockdown Protocol is still in early access technically, so they're still working on it. They're going to be adding more stuff.
I think
Among
it's
Us,
PC only, right?
probably. I mean, it just came out. It's not, or not just came out, but it came out recently. Among Us has been out for a while, and I think they have planned on doing like an Among Us 2, or no, like they're working on just adding new content, I think. But I don't know, Among Us gets a little boring. Whereas like we played this for 6 hours. Like I play Among Us for 2 hours, and I'm like, all right, I'm kind of done. Whereas this, we played for 6 hours, and it was just a blast the entire time.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you had fun with it.
Yeah, it was great. The one thing they really need to do is make the user and the UI for matchmaking a little bit better. I had to, because I was running private games, I had to add everyone who was going to be in that game to be my friend on Steam, so I could add them into the private game. Whereas, like, instead of giving me just like a private game code that I could send to everyone who's going to play.
Right.
And lastly, finally, I played a couple of hours of Alien Isolation. I think like 3 hours in, something like that.
All right.
I just made it to the medical area, and that game is it's, I don't really know. I don't know if I like it. I don't know.
Stressful.
Like, not really, not really. Like not as far as I'm at. I've only encountered the alien once, and it wasn't even coming after me at that time. And after then, it was the robots, the androids that I encountered. And that part, like, it took me several tries to do it, but once I actually figured out where to go and how to hide from them, it was simple. Like, it's not as scary as, at least as of this point, it's not as scary as I was expecting it to be. It's more like, and I think I made this argument with another horror game that I was playing a while back, that like it's more survival horror than it is horror. Oh, it's The Friendly Neighborhood. It's more survival horror than it is horror. So like there might be some jump scares, there might be some tense moments, but right now it's more, I have limited resources, enemies take a lot to kill or to stop. It got to one point where like it was after you complete a certain objective in the game, you then have to turn around and run back through everywhere you just came from to get to like the central travel hub. So yeah, there was a situation where like I had to get to an area and find a thing, and then I had to leave from where I was to go all the way back through everywhere I had just been through to get to the central hub to get to where my my allies were. And to get back, I kind of just like ran back. I didn't like I snuck around a few points, but then I just ran. And I was like, all right, well these enemies just walk. They don't run after you. They just walk towards you.
Like very horror movie vibe.
Yeah, and you can just run, and that's it. And there's no, I don't think there's much of a stamina gauge. And so just like to me, I was just like, this isn't entirely what I was expecting. Like I remember this game, hearing this game was like incredibly hard and incredibly scary, and like I haven't really had a situation where I'm
In either of those things.
yeah, I'm too scared. Like, and it was like when all my viewers kept saying this game is called Alien Isolation, I have seen no alien and next to no isolation. I'm like, yeah, no, I agree. We're 3 hours in. We're 3 hours in, and I encountered the alien all of like 30 seconds, and I've been isolated all of like maybe 10 minutes. Like at any point in time, I'm surrounded by like there's either humans, like, so I'm isolated in the fact that everyone's going to try to kill me, but I'm surrounded by, there was a human who was showing me where to go, and then that human was killed, so then I had to find my way to a location where then I was surrounded by aliens that were going to try to kill me if they saw me, and I was alone surviving from those aliens, and then but yeah, it's just like, I don't know, we'll see. I'm also surprised that the game's like 20 hours long.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, I can't.
I thought it was like a
look it up.
10-hour game.
That's what I was expecting. No more than 10 hours. I was expecting like an 8-hour game.
Yeah,
But how long to beat has it at like 18 hours?
oh yeah, look at that. Just main story, 18 and a half. Completionist, 34 hours.
Which that's not going to be me, and that probably requires you to play it twice. Completionist is generally like getting all the achievements.
Right, yeah.
That's not going to be me. Main and sides, like I don't even know if I'm going to bother with sides. Like I think I'm just going to do the story. But yeah, I was like, this 18 hours.
Wow, that game is 10 years old.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I'm blown away that it's 18 hours long. Like I was normally horror games don't run more than like 10 hours because the gimmick gets old fast. So if you're telling me there's 18 hours of me hiding, I'm just like, all right, I got to find ways to play this for longer sessions so I can get through it faster. Because
Understandable.
Otherwise, it's gonna be the only game I play this month is Alien Isolation.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, if you're only playing on stream, right.
Yeah, if I'm only playing it twice a week for 2.5 to 3 hours a day, that's the only game I'll end up playing throughout the entire month.
Sounds like you're doing 6-hour Sunday streams of Alien Isolation.
I'm gonna try to do at least some longer streams on Sundays. Not necessarily 6 hours, but it is. I'm doing horror games at least. I'm doing Alien Isolation right now at least 3 nights a week. I was gonna play it like yesterday, but we did Murky Diapers instead. But yeah, it's cool that like I didn't know that you play as Ripley's daughter. So like you're trying to find Ripley. It takes place 15 years after her ship went missing. I don't know which ship it's talking about. I can't remember the name of the ship.
The Nostradamus?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that the name of the ship? Nostromo.
Yeah.
I was close.
So I don't know if that's like Alien 1, 2, or Alien... It's probably not Resurrection, because Resurrection is years after everything, and Ripley had already died or something at some point. But yeah, so it's like you are playing as Ripley's daughter trying to find Ripley, and like the the game starts with like them finding out that like the black box of the Nostromo got found and is on this space station that they're getting ready to decommission. So you go to that space station that they're getting ready to decommission, and within the first 2 hours you find the black box, but you learn that it is it's corrupted. So then it's like, well, shit, now you came here for no fucking reason. I'm like, well, that sucks. That's stupid. You don't get any answers. Now you just gotta leave. And the rest of the game, the next 16 and a half hours of me playing this game is just gonna be me leaving.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those games where, like, I would say, like, if you do, like, a few more streams of it and it's still just not there, maybe just call that one as it is and, like, play something different. This way you aren't kind of wasting 20 hours of stream time on a game that isn't really working.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. I'll still end up beating it. It's just, I've already decided now, like, I'm not doing side stuff. I'm just going for the story. And, like, there have been areas that I have not explored, and I'm like, I'm not going to try to explore everything. I'm going for the objective. I'm going to not speedrun it, but speedrun it the best I can.
That's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, it's spooky. It's Alien October, so we'll see how things go. I'm playing just alien-based horror games on stream all month long. So besides Thursdays, which I don't know what we're gonna do on Thursdays, but we're usually playing. I usually play with friends on Thursdays, so
right.
We'll see what happens there.
Cool.
But yeah. How was or is Legend of Link: Echoes of Wisdom?
Oh, call it by the right name. It's Legend of Zelda.
But you're playing as Zelda, so it's Legend of Link.
It's not, though, because Link is gone immediately.
Yeah, but so is Zelda in every Legend of Zelda game.
It's good.
That's why they should have called it Legend of Link. It just would have been hilarious.
It wouldn't have been, though. It's not that funny.
It would have.
It's a good game, though. Like really good. I actually kind of wish Drew was here because I think this is the type of Zelda game that he would actually enjoy.
Yeah.
It's got the feel of your classic Zelda games, but with like this cool mechanic of basically creating clones of objects, and you get it almost right away. Like they don't really beat around the bush with it too much. The story here, so this is a separate era of the timeline. So this isn't like a direct sequel to anything. This one opens up where Zelda has been captured by it's Ganon. It's Ganon in his like blue like pig form.
Yeah.
But no one knows who he is at that point. And Link shows up to save her, and it does that cool thing that like some action games usually do, where like you start the game with all of your abilities.
Mhm.
So you roll up as Link with all the hearts, your Master Sword, or it's not called the Master Sword, but like your powered up sword, your bow and bombs, both unlimited, and you get to just fucking wreck Ganon. Like he's incredibly easy, and and that was kind of shown in that initial trailer for this. As soon as that's done, this rift opens up, swallows Ganon, swallows Link. Link's last act as he's being swallowed is to shoot an arrow at like the crystal containing Zelda, and then you're able to break out. And so what's been happening is Link is just this dude, doesn't know Zelda. They did not know each other. He was just the green swordsman is how people kept referring to him.
Mhm.
And he was on a quest to try and close these rifts that have been opening up, which are the big things that swallowed him. And so you get out of that whole situation as Zelda, you get back to the castle, and then a rift opens up at the castle, and it actually swallows your dad, the king, and a couple other people, and it spits out like evil versions of them who declare that Zelda is responsible for the rifts and lock her up.
Mhm.
But then you get this game's Navi, which is this little like yellow floaty dude, who they're the ones that give you the power to clone things. It's called Echoes, hence the name Echoes of Wisdom. And they're kind of with you, and it's their power that you are borrowing to create the Echoes. So that character has like a little bit of a level up system to them, where as you progress in the game and do different things, they get stronger, and you can you get different abilities that you can do with the Echoes, or you get the ability to just summon more Echoes at one time.
Mhm.
And depending on the type of Echo, they basically are like worth different values. So to like just summon like the regular bed, it's just one. So at the beginning of the game, I think you can get up to 3 or 4 just regular ass beds. But then to summon one of the enemies that has like a sword and a shield and is a little stronger, that's 3 or 4. So like when you first get that, you can only summon that one thing, and that's it. Like you're gonna summon them, you're gonna let them do their thing. If they get wiped out, you're just gonna summon another one immediately.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry, the dogs are. Somebody had the nerve to walk by outside, I assume.
How dare they?
But so it's kind of cool, like looking at how many things you can echo and figuring out ways to get things done. And it's so I mean the game is styled after the Link's Awakening remake, and it's definitely using similar mechanics. So you don't need an item to jump. You actually can just jump, which is cool. So there's like this little bit of like action platformer element to it. And like Zelda doesn't jump a ton because it's not a thing that she ever really had to do. But then there are times where like you'll go underground, and just like in Link's Awakening, it'll go to like more of a 2D side-scrolling level, and there'll be some like there's like puzzles and traps and stuff to sort out down there, and you have to go about those differently than you would on the overworld or in dungeons, because you're going from a 3D plane to a 2D plane. One of the things that I like a lot is one of the early 2D sections are spiders that come down with webs, and once you kill an enemy, like a new enemy, you can learn to echo them. So with the spiders, you can basically make like Donkey Kong 2 out of it, where you just keep spawning a spider next to you and just climbing up. So you can kind of like climb up a wall, or like climb up to the ceiling, I should say, and then just spawn spiders all the way across to get to like another ledge without having to do some like weird like stacking tables or something to get to it. Or in some cases, it'll let you get past enemies that you would otherwise have to like deal with fighting, either like summoning different things, or maybe like I've killed a few things by just dropping rocks on them from really high up.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's just cool. Like it's one of those games where there's a lot of possibility, but it still gives you a direct goal, similar to like your classic Zeldas. So right at the beginning, after you kind of get free of everything, you go to like the first place they tell you to find help, and the default goal is, all right, well, here are the two biggest rifts in Hyrule. We should go try and close those. So it's down in like the desert in Garuda Valley, and then it's up in like the top right, which is where the Zoras are. And the map is close to Link to the Past map. It's not like one for one, but it's in that general like vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I went down to the Garuda first in the desert, and the desert is laid out similar to like the Link to the Past one, only where the desert palace would be, like that first or the second dungeon is like the actual like city for the Gerudos and like everything. And you have to essentially win their help so that they will let you go into their temple and get into the rift to close it. And so what the game does is there's your main rift that is like the big one, and that ends up being like a proper dungeon with like a boss at the end. But aside from that, there are these smaller rifts that occasionally you can go into them, and they're just like these little like puzzle platformer sections where you're generally just looking for friends of the little dude that's helping you, whose name I'm just totally blanking on right now. Because you basically go find a bunch of them in these like side levels, and then they're able to seal these little mini rifts. A similar thing happens in the larger rifts, only they've been captured by whatever the monster is. So defeating the monster frees them, and they're able to work together to close the rifts. So doing these smaller ones gets you generally gets you on the good side of whichever group you're trying to help at that moment. But it also gives you level ups for the little dude. So they end up, getting their power ups where you can either summon more or whatever, like I was saying earlier. And then the last kind of mechanical thing that I've gotten to so far is in each dungeon so far. So I've done 2 of the dungeons. Link, like the evil echo of Link has been there, and you end up having to fight him. So the first time you fight him, and it's just swordsman Link, and you have no way to fight directly. You actually just have to like summon different enemies and different items that do damage. Like I have the spinning blade things that kind of shoot back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have those, so I can like drop them on the ground, and as long as the enemy walks in their path, it does damage to them.
Okay.
So the first time you fight Link, you kind of have to like strategically use those guys and use some of the items in the world to hit him with. And when you defeat him, his sword gets left behind, and it's actually the real Link sword. So when you pick that up, you actually get powered up, and you get the ability to essentially like harness the power of the swordsman. So you get all of Link's abilities. And each time you defeat him, you get like one of his weapons. So far I've got his sword and the bow and arrow.
Okay.
So when I activate that power, I get like the better jumping ability. So I can like jump higher, jump further, and it's like a little flip. I have a sword where I can actually go attack directly instead of just having to summon enemy or summon things to attack for me. And now with the bow and arrow, I have like a distance attack, a ranged attack is the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But it has like a power limit. So when you're on the overworld, if you use it, you're kind of fucked because things don't really spawn too often there that will refill that. But when you're in they call it the still world, because anything that gets pulled in there is just kind of like petrified and frozen. Anytime you get to into there, pretty much every enemy you kill gives you back a little bit of that, so you can be a little more loose with how often you're using it. And I think like that has added like a fun layer to it, because I try not to use it too much, but sometimes like it's cool to just like drop a couple enemies. And they're not enemies anymore; they're echoes of enemies, and then turn into like the sword fighter version, and just all of you just kind of gang up on the enemy and just take them out really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, being able to like do the better jump and all has its benefits when you're setting up like some like contraption of like tables and springs and stuff like that, or trampolines to like get to something. You kind of turn on Link for a second, and you get that better like oomph when you jump, and it gets you across it, and then you just turn it off real quick so you don't run out. It's been a lot of fun so far, though. I want to say, so I've done 2 proper dungeons at this point, and I'm about to do the third one, which is the Zora domain. So I assume I'm about to get the bombs, if I had to guess. And yeah, it's been cool. There was also a little there's a little nod to how Link is always a silent protagonist. You go meet up with somebody, and they happen to be the person that made the sword for Link and had kind of been like working with him as he's trying to clear these ruins. He was one of a couple people that had been taken by Ganon, is how they explain it. And when he came back, he no longer spoke. Like he just stopped talking entirely.
Yeah.
So they kind of like found a way to like explain the silent protagonist thing in Link by that. And yeah, it's been good though. I like it a lot. It's probably
Thanks.
I'm gonna keep playing it. We go away next week, so I'm definitely gonna. I don't think I'm gonna bring the Steam Deck with me. I'm probably gonna bring the Switch so that I can just keep playing this.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it looks good. I want to get it. Probably not going to, because it's just, again, too many games on the list.
Yeah, and I know you don't have anything against Zelda games, but I feel like Zelda also isn't just like one of your favorite series.
I love Zelda. I have nothing against Zelda. I love Zelda. I'm more privy to playing the 3D Zeldas over.
I guess
like,
that's what I mean.
Older ones, but
yeah.
there's I have nothing against the older ones. It's more of I've never really played them, and less of I don't want to play them. Like I played the original Legend of Zelda. I have a blast with that. I've touched Link to the Past. Like I'm sure that's a great game. I just don't know it enough to actually say that it's a great game or not.
And like this one is very much in the vein of A Link to the Past and Link's Awakening and all those.
Yeah.
And I think that is more what I meant when I said like they're not one of your favorite series. Like you like the not the modern ones only, because like you like Twilight Princess and stuff like that too, and Skyward Sword,
Sword, Ocarina of Time. They're all fantastic games.
Like you like the more like 3D ones than the ones that were more pixel based. Because they're all kind of 3D. Like none of them are like 2D side scrolling, but
yeah. And it's like I've never really gotten around to playing games like Spirit Tracks or Minish Cap or anything like that because I never got them. And it's not that I never won. I just never got them. It's just they were on Game Boy, and I didn't really like playing Game Boy games.
Hey man, Minish Cap is on the Switch. On the online.
I think Spirit Tracks also.
No, because Spirit Tracks is a DS game.
I thought it was GBA.
No, Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass were both DS games.
Okay. Four Swords, I think, is on the Switch then.
Yes. Four Swords was a GBA game.
Yeah, it's GBA/GameCube game.
Right, yeah.
You could play it with the GameCube adapters. And I don't know if you needed a disc, but you could play it that's what it was. If you had your GBA GameCube adapter, you could play it with 4 people.
Right, yeah, I remember that.
On your GameCube, and you could each have your own Game Boy. And if you went into a dungeon, you would be playing on the Game Boy. If you were out on the overworld, you'd be on the big screen.
Yeah, because it was like that game and Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles were the two that tried to leverage the plug your Game Boy into the GameCube thing.
Did Crystal Chronicles have that?
I could have sworn it did. Maybe it didn't.
I don't think it did. Crystal Chronicles, I don't think had like any sort of like
play
with the Game Boy.
I thought if you plugged in the Game Boy, you got like your inventory and stuff was on the Game Boy, even though like your character was always on the screen. Maybe. I don't remember. I never really played Crystal Chronicles.
Crystal Chronicles was great, man. That was a great game.
The multiplayer game. Fuck multiplayer.
You could play it solo, and it was perfectly fine solo.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah,
multiplayer. I'm just like, I'm not playing a multiplayer game.
I mean, so the thing is, there's no actual main character in that game. You create your character, and so you can play it solo. You create a team of 4, and you go out into the world, and like you control one, whereas the AI controls the rest.
Huh, interesting.
The only difference, I think that's how it worked. And really, the only difference between the two was if you were playing with friends. The world was covered in a miasma, and you walked around with basically this crystal chalice that would keep the miasma away from you. And if you like stepped out of the zone, you had a certain amount of time before you had to run back in, or you'd start taking damage or whatever. If you played with other players, somebody had to carry that chalice. So if you got into an area where you had to fight a bunch of enemies, they had to put it down and start fighting the enemies with their whatever attacks. If you're playing solo, you have a little Moogle that follows you around with it. So it actually makes it a little bit better because there's not one person who's just out playing, out just walking around with his chalice. But that game was fantastic. It was such a good game. I wish they better continued the series. I know they did Crystal Chronicles 2, which I think that one was on GBA or DS.
I do vaguely remember that.
And they did remake Crystal Chronicles recently on Switch.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think they did.
But regardless, Echoes of Wisdom is exactly the Zelda game that I needed because, like we've talked before, I don't hate Breath of the Wild, but I don't think it's a good Zelda game because it doesn't really have any of the traditional Zelda to it. There's really no dungeons. Like the closest thing are the shrines, and those are one and dones. This feels like a traditional Zelda game, but different because you're different protagonist, different skill set. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Apparently it did have a GBA link for multiplayer use.
Yeah, man, look at me knowing shit about games I didn't play.
I don't remember what the GBA did.
Well, that's because nobody fucking really ever used that, right?
We did. Me, Eric, and Shah used it all the time.
Yeah, but for 4 Swords, and that was it.
And Crystal Chronicles.
Maybe. You don't know. You don't remember it.
I'm sure we did.
You probably did.
I think you needed it. Yeah, okay. So it was your menu. It was your attack screen. So you attack, defend, item use, things like that. It was that was your inventory and stuff like that, but you played the entire game on the TV. So that this way I found a video. Other players, so if you wanted to go into your menu but somebody else didn't, you could go into your menu and everyone else could be running around doing stuff while you were in your menu. So your menu, each individual menu was on their GBA. So yeah, you're right.
Oh, cool.
I just forgot about that because it's been 10 plus years.
I mean, probably close to 20.
Yeah, something like that. I think I was in...
Like, that game came out in, 2002.
No, not that early.
Maybe 2004, but, the DS came out in 2005. 2003.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man, that shit's old. That is over 20 years ago.
Yeah. Game's great. It's great. And, yeah. IGN gave it a 7.6.
Which,
got solid reviews.
That's a fine score.
It was such a cool game, such a cool concept. I was very proud of myself when I beat it.
Good job.
I beat it solo because same as any game you get with friends that everyone intends to play again. You played it once or twice and then never played it again.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I remember, I was in high school then, 2003. That was my freshman year. It's 03 into 04. Yeah, so that was my freshman year. That was the beginning of my freshman year. I remember I was at lunch and the game had come out. And like I said, you have to create your characters. So
it looks like North America came out February 04. So still your freshman year.
Yeah. So I brought the game book and I was really close to I was really good friends or we were everyone knew us as our friend group with the people I sat at lunch with. So I had brought the booklet and I was like, guys, there's a game I'm playing and you have to create your character. So let me know who you want to be and I'll put your name in for that character. And so it was very minimal options. It was different colors, different hats, and then your class. And so this one fucking kid, he was like, what are you doing? And I'd show him, and he's like, well, just name him the name that's in the game. They don't have names in the game. Yeah, it is. He's Red Club Lance. No, that's his color, his symbol, and his class. That's not his name. Just name him that. I'm like, okay, Glenn, you don't want to be in the game, that's fine. You don't have to be in the game. This kid was also he had short man syndrome. He had Napoleon was it Napoleon syndrome or whatever, where he tried to be bigger than he was because he was a really short kid.
Yeah.
He was a dick. And just kind of got stuck sitting with us. But yeah, that's all.
Nice. That's all I have about Zelda 2. It's a good game. I enjoy it. I'm going to keep playing it.
Nice.
I think that'll actually probably do it for this week.
Yeah. We there's not really much else to talk about. We played Pandemic, we won, and now we don't have any funding for the next time we play. So nothing really spectacular to talk about that. It's
going to be a hell of a time next time, I think.
It is. You'll like this. I finally got together with my friends about like, hey, we have like games that I kind of need to talk about and record videos and do videos for and stuff. So like, we're actually meeting next week to play games.
Oh, nice.
So I'm gonna bring at least two of the, was it 3 or 4 games? Technically, it was 4, but it was really only 3 games that I got because Forever Stoked. I could technically talk about the dice game that I got if I can. It's somewhere over there. I can find it. But Drew got the other big game that they were talking about that year, so that's on him to find it, to figure out a way. But yeah, so it's at least 2 of the games that I got last year I'll be talking about, or making videos and talking about in the next few weeks. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah.
Cool. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up. If you would like to find more of our content, you can head over to www.one-quest.com. Sorry, I drew a blank there. You can also help us out by supporting us at patreon.com/onequest. If you can't support us there, $8 go, you can go to your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, rate us, review us, subscribe to us. All of it helps. You can also find us on social media, facebook.com/onequestonline or at @one_quest on Instagram and Twitter. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/onequestvideo. And you can always send us an email to social@one-quest.com. And Rich, what is your streaming?
Check me out on twitch.tv/b_walnuts. We're on video game streaming Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. It's Alien October, so we're playing alien-based horror games. Currently, Alien Isolation. If we can get through that, it'll be Callisto Protocol, and if we can get through that, it'll be Dead Space Remake.
Nice.
And then potentially some Dead by Daylight nights. I have to do a Mario Kart night. I am also rearranging my sub rewards starting for this month. I still have to make the graphic, and I'm adding Lockdown Protocol onto that and taking out Jackbox because fuck Jackbox. Doing Jackbox streams without
Jackbox is really Jackbox is really only fun, in my opinion, when you're like in the same room as like a group of like people that you are like pretty decent friends with.
It can be done on stream.
Oh, it can.
If you have people that you know or people that you like. The last time I tried doing it, I had people coming in, randos coming in to play it. And like at one point or another they were having just weird ass conversations in chat that I had to shut down. They were starting to get political. They started saying some anti-Semitic stuff on game. I was like, guys, I gotta shut this down. Can't do it. And so we stopped playing Quiplash and then started playing other games. And then the political conversations continued to go. And I had to yell at them, like, guys, if you do not stop this conversation, I will time you out. Like, I will block you. I will ban. Like, I'm not. I don't want this. I don't mind political talk, but I don't want it on the stream. You can talk about it. You can talk to me about it anywhere else. I had a podcast where it was all about political talk. So, just not right now. Not right now. Not here.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess with all that said, we'll be back next week with something else to talk about. Thanks for listening. Bye.
See yous.